Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really honoured actually to be able to join you all here today, and a big thank you firstly to Simona Scarpaleggia and when he has chance to join us, Luis Solis, our co-chairs for organising this, but especially big thank you actually also to Margot, who's done a huge amount of work to enable us to join here today from literally every corner of the world and be able to do what I think is a really important meeting. And I think the Global Solutions Summit obviously comes at a time when there's huge challenge for all of us wherever we are, but actually I think it's never been more important now to look at how we navigate out of this pandemic, but to a better version of the world than the one that entered it. And as has been said, you know, I was part of enabling the first high-level panel on women's economic empowerment to set up. And from a UK perspective, when I was development secretary, and I had the most amazing team in DFID working alongside me, we were just really keen to play our role in making sure that SDG 5 on gender equality had some action behind it. And we felt that this was one way that we could help bring people together to enable that to happen. And I had the privilege of being on the panel with some really inspirational, amazing people who were role models for many, many women and young women in the countries that they came from. But I think today's event really is about revisiting and redoubling our effort for a world, as both Linda and Vera and Simona have set out, is even more challenged on gender equality than it was when we entered the pandemic on all sorts of different levels. And I think what it tells us is that the focus on gender equality, as Linda's just said, actually needs to become greater, not lesser. And I think the danger is, as we come out of the pandemic, that in a sense, policymakers say, well, we're too busy to have to focus on these sorts of issues. Somehow, let's just create more jobs. Let's just kind of get things back on track. And actually, one of the reasons we wanted to focus on gender equality when I was at DFID was because it did seem to me that there was always something more important to be done for other people than focusing on gender equality, and that there was this sense you had to absolutely never lose sight of it and put the energy behind it in order to really get change. And so that's what we're really here to discuss today, and I'm very interested to hear what everyone else has to say. And yes, we do want to build back better, but actually I guess the message I had for everyone today was better's not actually good enough. What we want is gender equality, and that is something more specific, I think, than just better. And it's it's about a world that's about 50-50. It's about equal opportunities, not just better opportunities for women. It's about equal life choices, not just better life choices. It's about equal representation, not just better representation. And I think for me, we have to be really clear about the fact that that's where we're aiming to get to. And it is not just about better, it is about equal. And I think we have made progress in recent years, but my observation, having been a campaigner on gender equality, like many of you for a very long time, and I can't necessarily, Linda may have the evidence base, but I'm not sure I do. My gut instinct, being in a developed country in the UK, is that we have made progress. All countries are on a journey, but it almost feels like when you hit a third on representation, that people start to think, oh, that's quite good. We've got to a third. And almost there's a sense of, well, we've come quite a long way, haven't we? And then we start to lose the momentum. And so, for example, I think that's the challenge we have in our UK Parliament. Around a third of our MPs are women. And I don't see necessarily that we'll get to 50% unless we really take a decision that that's what we want to do now. So I think the most important thing is perhaps to be clear about where we want to get to, which is 50-50. And so coming out of the pandemic, it means that we have to have a roadmap that isn't just about building back better, that it's a roadmap that gets us to 50-50. And very specifically, and sets out the very different roles that different stakeholders, different parts of our world have to play in this. And I think our high-level panel and this follow-up to it has identified some key areas where we need to see action if we're really going to drive wholesale change on the ground, not just for some women, but for all women. And they are around unpaid care. It's around the ability of women to be active in business and be able to have finance access to be able to do that. It's around the education that's crucial if we're going to enable young girls to grow up as something that is more than just a person that can be effectively offered for marriage for a dowry. There's so much more than that. We know, as Vera absolutely rightly pointed out just now, that the world is changing, and this issue of digital access is both an opportunity and a threat. And actually, which way it goes is a choice for us. It can be one of the primary routes that we enable a whole generation of women to play a bigger role in society, to have more access to finance, as Vera said, to have access to education wherever they are. But that's not just going to happen. And in the absence of a compelling roadmap for 50-50, the danger is the reverse happens, and it becomes a divide that some are on the right side of, but some are on the wrong side of, and the people on the wrong side of that divide are disproportionately women around our world. So it's all about us making a choice. And I think it's all about different parts of our community setting out how they're going to deliver a 50-50 roadmap. I think governments need to set this out very clearly. Vera also said she felt, I think it was about institutions. I agree with that. It is about organizations that are involved in policy setting out how they plan to get from where we are today to 50-50. It's about businesses being really clear about how they plan to play a role in pulling not just more women into the opportunities they have, but allowing that talent to flow right the way through into the leadership roles. And I think it's about wider civil society being a cheerleader and being activist on supporting the institutions that are making those changes and genuinely delivering progress on the ground, and standing up against those that aren't taking enough action. So I think my call to action on all of this would be the 50-50 roadmap to recovery. And I think that it can sometimes feel overwhelming. It can feel like this is so complex in a way, it's almost impossible for us to ever accomplish. But I don't believe that it has to be the case. I think achieving gender equality is like a mosaic with millions of pieces in it. And fundamentally, the decisions that we all have to take is whether or not we're going to make our piece of this mosaic 50-50. But actually, if we can all do that, and if we can persuade the institutions, the organizations, the policymakers, the businesses in our own countries to do that, then actually bit by bit, we will get progress. And I'm fascinated and interested and humbled to be part of the discussion today. Really, really looking forward to hearing all of your thoughts as well. And looking forward to being part of this redoubled effort and making sure that we keep this issue of gender equality right in the center of the debate as we come out of the pandemic. This is a moment for change. And I think it can be a moment when we take policymakers and enable them to have a fresh look at how they want to drive a better world. So I think if we can perhaps all work together and have a structure for our work beyond today and beyond the call to action, then we can hopefully have a significant impact. Thank you very much. Thank you, Amadou.